thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you today. And have you seen those little pins that says, I love real estate? Well, I need one that says, I love real estate agents. Because I do love real estate agents. And I speak your language. Maybe with an accent, but I do. I live where you live. Not physically, but in the world of real estate. I live where you live. And you are absolutely my tribe. You've read Seth Cummings' book, The Tribe, and you are my tribe. So I understand many of the things that you go through every single day. And I'm going to try to take it and put it down to a level that can help you do some things that maybe you're not doing right now that will help you decide whether a team's right for you. Today I'm going to try to get through this. I think I brought more information than I'm going to be able to get through. So this young lady right here is going to tell me when I've got 5 minutes. I'm not going to call on her. So I'm going to talk about building my team because that's the best information I can give you is how I built my team. And then I'm going to give you the pros and cons, the good, the bad, the ugly about being a team member and about owning and running a team. And then we'll explore the team structure. And we'll ask the question, is a team structure a fit for you? And if time permits, I'll do the listing presentation that I've taught my team to do, which allows us to be the dominant force for listing properties in our area of the country. So let's get started. But first of all, and I know Judy asked you some of these questions. I know Judy asked you some of these questions, but I didn't get to see everybody. So tell me who in here is a team leader. And then the team members, just the team members? Okay. Now, I need you to just tell me a little bit about your market. So just yell it out. Buyer's market or seller's market? Seller's market. Okay, I've heard that you live in one of the 5 richest counties in the United States. Is that true?
Yeah.
What's your average sales price? Say again?
350.
420. It's a big area. Okay.
Got a bunch of different
There's a bunch of different counties here.
You put it all in one,
different
it's
markets.
470.
Okay. I heard as low as like 300, and then I heard as high as 450. Is that a pretty good range?
Yeah.
All right. Well, our probably is right around 300. So we're not too far off of that 450. We're getting on up there. So, how many of you do not have a team now, but are thinking about having a team? Okay. I can tell you that what Judy went over is a pretty good structure. This is my team. We're currently number 4 in the United States right now for RE/MAX. These are the people that are on my team that are on the sales. This is not the entire team, but it's a great team. This young lady to the far right over here has been with me for 17 years. 17 years. So there's some really good things about having a long-term relationship with many people. This is actually my team. And there's other team leaders. I have 10 of the top teams in my area that are right in my company. I have one large building, and then I have a second satellite office. So the one over here with the pink is a millennial. She's got an up-and-coming team. She's got 2 buyer's agents. I know a lot about teams. I know a lot about what works and what doesn't work. So I'm going to tell you about why does somebody even start a team. And I think for me, I was an only child, and I needed somebody to celebrate with, and I like to do things together. I kind of like the thrill of victory, with somebody else, enjoying that with somebody else, and the agony of defeat, I wanted to cry on somebody's shoulder. So, for me, that worked out well. I married a man many years ago, and have you ever seen this sign in the kindergarten that says, "Plays well alone"? Does not play well with others. My husband actually should have that sign over everywhere he goes because he does not play well alone. He does not play well with others. So I enjoy being around other people. And Judy was talking about, actually Judy's been trying to train me on this for years and years. I'm not sure I still got it, but I know I was an ID before I started the team, and then I began a DI. And it will get you in touch with your other part, that's for sure. So what is the most reliable path? Well, the only thing I can tell you about the most reliable path is exactly what Judy said. For me, it was focusing, eventually I began focusing totally on listings. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But the level of commitment, I think, comes into play. Because frankly, actually, I think it was Barbara. Barbara, where are you? Barbara asked me a question before I came in here. She said, why did you do this? And I said, well, I was a single parent. I had 3 children to raise. I was in my 20s. And I said, you know, the prospects didn't look too good to find somebody to help me raise those 3 children. So I said, you know, I better do something that actually earns some money because these kids need braces. There's a lot of things that they really need. Eventually, they'll need cars, trips to Europe, you know, the essentials in life, and, you know, insurance, all these things. So the reason I did it, first of all, was because I had an obligation. I had responsibility. And so that was an important factor of why I did. But there is different levels of commitment for this career, isn't there? To some people, and I've worked with many real estate agents. To some people, this is just a job. It's just a job. They go home, they enjoy their family, they just, you know, it's just a job for them. And then you move on up a little bit more, and then you've got the career agent. And that's a little bit heavier commitment, the level of commitment there. But then you move into a team, and then all of a sudden, you got a business. And that includes some very different things. I've actually got one of my competitors that did a picture of his team on the front of a magazine, and he was in the pool drinking a glass of wine, and his 42 agents were behind him. You know, so I don't think, and I've worked with so many people, and actually I've worked with a woman. I remember this particular woman in particular. She had some family, she had buyer's agents, she had a pretty good sized team, and I remember her telling me, you know, I want to get to the point where all I have to do is just come in and, you know, sign the checks or get the checks. And I want to tell you, that is not my plan of the team. It's never worked that well for me. So if you're looking for easy street, this is probably not going to be the thing to do, is to start a team. The second mistake I've seen in a team is where you don't have a clearly defined leader. There's a 2-headed gal here. And I had one of my mentors tell me one time that anything with 2 heads is a monster. So you don't want to have you have to have a clearly defined leader. And the leader cannot be timid about taking control. So that's an important factor that I've learned over the years. And it can't be a frat party. You know, I got as much eye as anybody in this room. But it can't be about a frat party. My husband, I know when he came to work with me, he had a software company where basically he had sites all over the United States and had great responsibility. And so he decided that I wasn't running my real estate business well in 2000. And so we got married. I think we were married for 2 years. We almost didn't make it to 3. Because he got into the business, he said, what are you doing? I said, this is not just a party. You know, this is a business. We got to run it like a business. So he kind of, you know, we struggled together for a long time. And then finally I drew a line in the sand. I said, look, you stay over there with the books. I'm staying over here with the sales. Do not mess with my part. I won't mess with your part. Maybe our marriage will make it. So it can't be a frat party. So the question to ask before you begin anything is actually, what's driving you? Why do you want to do this? And in the infamous words of the Spice Girls, what do you want? What do you really, really want? and you know, I ask you that in all sincerity. What do you really, really want out of this career? What do you want? A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. What do you really, really want? I come from a place that is different, perhaps, than many of you. I come from a divorced family. I come from alcoholic family. I come from poverty. I come from the mountains of North Carolina where they used to send in missionaries to deliver babies because we couldn't afford doctors. I tell you these things because it really is a point of what you really, really want. So So, and the next thing I would say is you got to look at what holds you back too, because I think what's driving you can be it can be positive, what drives you, but what's driving you can also be negative. What's really, really driving you can be negative. I think about this because I think for a lot of people, I think most of us would say, it's not really the money that drives me. But then again, there's a few of us that say, you know what, I've been poor and money's not bad. There's a few of us that say possessions, the lifestyle, frankly, a lifestyle is important. But I think most of us in this room would say it's our family that's driving us. It's our responsibility. It's what we want to give to other people. So I don't know what's really, really driving you. But you've got to put your finger on it in order to get the most out of your career and if you decide to do a team. Because then you step from being just a sole practitioner to a business owner. And you've got to make this thing work not only for you, but for the people that depend on you. So I'd say that the family is probably what drives you better than this one. And then I would say, is your wanter broke? And what I would say about that is that I think most people that I meet anyway, are very timid about what they want. I think ambition has got a bad rap. I don't think it's bad to be ambitious. I think it's bad to run over people. I think it's bad to do business poorly. But I don't think ambition is a bad thing. I think you ought to want to be the very best that you can be. I think you've been given an opportunity in real estate. And what you make out of it is going to be different than what you make out of it. There's only one differentiation of what you really believe inside. So that's very, very important to me. I think you should want the most out of what you got left. Don't tell me you're too young. Don't tell me you're too old. Don't give me any excuse, because basically I know that you've got what it takes to do what you have been given the ability to do. So I want you to have your very best career that you possibly can. So what holds a lot of people back, I tell you what, I've been around a lot of agents. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things is you've got to have a great reputation in this business, don't you? I mean, your reputation is everything to clients and everything else. But a lot of us view what we do by the prism of other people's eyes. In other words, we care more about what other people think of us than we actually think of ourselves. So you can't get that too much out of perspective. Don't care too much about what somebody else says. You got to make a decision. I went to a seminar years ago. It was actually Mike Ferry. Judy mentioned him. Mike Ferry had walked into this seminar. I already told you it was a single parent. So there's a huge banner across the wall that says, "Desperation is the downfall of all wealth." And I thought, damn, I've been desperate all my life. I'm not sure there's any other emotion. But what you've got to do is you've got to turn that desperation into determination. It's got to be a gut level determination that propels you to go through what you will go through if you decide to build a world-class team. So then what you believe about you and your potential. Oh, folks, I really don't have time to get into that. But I would ask you, sometimes when you can be very, very quiet with yourself, is what could you do if you absolutely chose not to be denied in this business? What could you really do? What potential do you really have? Those are questions that only you can answer from the inside. And I'm very fond of Tom Ferry too. And he told one time about this coaching client of his, and I believe she was 87. And she had this goal to give this large amount of money to a particular charity that she was very involved with. So she's 87, folks. She's no spring chicken. I don't think anybody in here is 87. So she went to him and she said, "These are my goals." I said, "No, then." So he said, "Yeah, well, go ahead." She made those goals and worked until she was 92, and she was able to give to that charity what she wanted to give. So it really has a lot to do with what you believe about your potential and how hard you drive yourself, because you're the ultimate determination of how well you're going to do. And then I believe people think, well, you know, I'm doing pretty well where I am. I think that when you're doing better than somebody else, sometimes you're timid to get the most out of your life. And, you know, if you have more, you can give more. There's many things that you can do. And why waste the potential that you have? And only you know the potential that you have. Only you can grasp it. So I really ask you to challenge yourself and find out what you really believe about what potential you really have. So those limiting beliefs really are hidden as good emotions. Well, you know, I'm doing really well. I'm doing better than so-and-so. But you're not doing the most you can do. And that's the point. What you were given is different than so-and-so. So I'll get into that a little bit more. So, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. This thing is not easy street, that's for sure. But I heard we play a lot of ball in North Carolina. We don't care whether it's football, if it's ball, we're going to play with it. And I heard a sports guy talking about how he had come up through the ranks, of course, through high school, now was a professional player. And I thought sports analogies relate so much to me with real estate and the road you will travel if you decide to build a team. And I heard him talk about when he was in high school. When he was in high school, he said, you got to be willing not to be denied. Not to be denied. You have to be willing to just be unmatched. And then as you get a little bit progressive, and I relate this to building a team, you have to be willing to prove your worth every single day. You know, I've always said, you take a great real estate agent with nothing happening, you put me in a room with a telephone, by the end of the day, I'll find something that's happened, I'll make something happen. Then you got to prove you can be consistent. Consistency has to come into play. And then the last thing, you got to be worth. You got to prove your worth on staying on top. You know, because the journey to go up to the top of the ladder is not quite as hard as staying on the top of the heap. So with all of that in place, you got to count your cost, the cost of the journey. And as Judy said, you may decide this is not something you want to do. And I can tell you, there was a slide that I was looking for before I came up here that talked about it. Came out of, I thought I'd seen it in the Tom Ferry organization. I called him, I couldn't get it. But it was the size of teams. And I'll just tell you that most teams are small. There's only like 1 or 2% of those teams that are over, let's say, over 40 people. I compete. My head-on biggest competitor in my market is that agent that I told you about that was in the pool. Has 42 agents. He's a builder, developer, real estate agent. When he buys a lot, he counts it. When he sells it to the builder, he counts it. And then when he sells a house, he counts it. So who knows what his numbers are, but I'm not bitter. You do want to count the cost of this journey, because you will pay a price. There's nothing easy about doing this, because all of a sudden now you got more responsibility, folks. You got to be your tax accountant. You got to figure out whether this expenditure has got a return on investment. You need to be a lawyer. You need to be an executive secretary. You got to be the CEO. You got to have a tighter schedule. You got free time is almost a thing of the past. You got to be head of your sales department, head of your marketing department. You got to be a motivational speaker. You got to be the star. You got to advertise. You got to payroll. You got management. Now put this little guy over here in weights, because the first broker I ever had in my area was just terrible. You talk about abusive of women. Oh my goodness, I won't even go into that. But the only thing, I worked with him for about 2 years, and the only thing that he ever said that made any kind of sense at all is he said, you got to be in shape to sell real estate, because you got to have high energy. And I would say that that's the only thing of value that man ever said. But and anyway, we'll give you that. So it's not easy street. You got more responsibility when you run a team. And the question is, you know, what would you do with that more responsibility? How would you utilize it? And I love this. I just read this book. How many of you have been to see this movie? Solid. Great movie. Great story. I just go through some of the things because he inspired me so much. Because this guy's a guy in his 60s that probably ran this flight for who knows how many years. And some of the things that he got out of it, he says it takes intense preparation to rise to the occasion, to meeting specific challenges. And you go through that every day in real estate, do you not? Every day you go through specific challenges. And you know, just when I think I have gone through every single challenge in this business, up pops another one. And there's a changing ground in real estate too. I'll tell you that during the past 5 years, real estate has changed more than the preceding 25 years that I was in real estate. So part of his job, and I say it's part of your job if you become a team leader, you got to inspire people every single day, every single week. You got to be very vigilant. You got to see trouble before it's coming and try to not, run into it. You're always giving your best effort on every single flight. Now, you know, how many of you have sold more than one house? That's a good thing. I can tell you for sure that when you talk to people, before they finish that sentence, you know what your answer is going to be because you've done this before. It's not your first day out. But being vigilant through every single transaction, really giving your best on every single flight. Giving your best when you're in front of every single buyer, every single seller is tiring. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of focus. I don't dismiss people. You know, the biggest compliment I ever have gotten, I've ever received in real estate, hadn't been from an award. It's been from a person that I spent time with maybe 4 or 5, even 10 years ago, that did not do business with me, but that I focused on giving them the very best information that I possibly could. And they cared enough, you made such an impact on me that I called you back. That's the biggest accolade I've ever received in real estate. So giving the best effort on every single time you have a chance to counsel somebody is a really important thing. He observed the way that most routine actions and the smallest words could resonate and have an impact on the morale of his team and on the client. You know, you have to choose your words so carefully, don't you? You really, I think less is more when it comes to that. His margin for error, let me tell you something, if he made a mistake, people died. If you made a mistake, they just screamed like they died. So avoiding complacency in our business is big. It's a big deal because we do the same things over and over again. And I'm doing a number of things, and if I ever get the chance to come back and talk to you about that, that's what I would tell you. Lifelong commitment to learning, let me tell you. You're not going to keep it up in this business without keeping sharp, keeping fresh, keeping there, and learning to expand your mind. And view each day as a process of preparation and a new opportunity, dedication to continuous preparation, creating shared sense of responsibility. Now that one is difficult. I've gotten a great inside team now, and I'll give you some secrets on how I finally did it. But the salespeople, it's a challenge. Let me ask you this. Do you prefer, by raising hands, how many of those of you that prefer working with sellers? Okay. Now those of you that prefer working with buyers. Okay. A few more sellers there. Creating a shared sense of responsibility to make tomorrow better than today. Refuses to accept anything that's barely adequate. And look what he did. An incredible operation of where he did all those years of practicing, of being there 100% paid off for so many lives. It's an incredible thing, an incredible accomplishment. So I think that's the way, being a leader and being a team leader is a different thing from being a manager. Frankly, I wish I had a manager, to tell you the truth. Management, if you have to ask me, my least favorite part of the job is managing. But being the leader is where it's really at. And the alternative is you get stale, you get old, and you decline. So either you're on it or you're off of it. Either you're with us or you're against us. Either you're going forward or you're slipping back because there is no treading water in this business. This is actually I gave you this guy because this is one of my key people that I use to do what Judy does. It's a little bit in depth. I'll tell you the story quickly. He basically Furniture Land South. It's a North Carolina's big furniture company. And in 2008 recession, there was a big, huge furniture company that had about 50 salesmen that were getting ready to go out of business and was going to lose thousands and thousands of jobs. So they called in my friend, who is John Pike, and he's an award-winning author, speaker, international best-selling author, and he basically did assessments and brought that sales team back up to a #1 par and virtually saved the company. So Judy talked earlier about getting an assessment that's 50 pages. Well, Marti Hampton cannot read an assessment that's 50 pages. If I get past the first paragraph, I'm really, really lucky. So basically, I will do this test. It's not only doing the test, he'll tell me whether to hire him or not. I'll tell him what the position is, he'll tell me whether to hire him. So he's a good asset. So if you want to build a team, do the next team. For Marti Hampton, I told you I was going to tell you that I did mine. I focused on listings. After a while, and it was probably the first 5 years I was in the business, I decided that focusing on, I looked at the time period. And some of those buyers, I mean, tell me, when's the last time you had a buyer's market?
Didn't hear you.
When's the last time you had a buyer's market in this area?
A couple years.
2008.
Your area's a buyer's market now? So 5 or 6 years ago, sometime in the last 5 or 6 years, you've had a buyer's market. And those buyers now, actually I was thinking about this morning because I was enjoying some of your traffic. And I said, these people should, they couldn't possibly show 20 houses in a day. They're lucky if they get in 2 or 3, just, the way the traffic pattern is. So for me, it was giving up those buyers because I looked at the amount of time that I spent with buyers and I looked at the amount of time that I could spend with the seller, and it was a no-brainer for me. I said, hey, this is crazy. I'm not going to do this. So but giving away, are you at the point where you can flip a buyer, you can sell that buyer, you've got that buyer, and you are strong enough. Now, let's say that's a $500,000 buyer, let's say it's a $750,000 buyer. Are you strong enough to give that away to somebody on your team? That's a question you'll have to answer for yourself, because that's what you're going to have to